My name is Ruby, and I grew up on Hammond Street, which was off of Westminster.
And I'm Nell Van Noppen, and I grew up on Dexter, right on the park. Growing up, we went to elementary, and then I went to high school locally, but we both bussed out to Scituate for middle school. I guess I was in middle school, you were?
I was like 5th grade, I think.
And where we went to school out there, I could never convince any of my classmates to come and play at my house after school because they're, and not because they were uninterested, because their parents were really, really wary of the neighborhood.
Like a weird stigma that went along with living in the Armory District, for sure. I know even my relatives, when they'd come to visit, would always be looking out the windows, like, at their cars, like, making sure no one broke in. We're just like... I think there are tons of perks to growing up in this neighborhood. I think that it exposes you to so many different types of people, just in every spectrum. I was just thinking of Hubcap Jack, who was this awesome guy who lived off of Sycamore Street?
There's this dude who, lived on... He was living in an old folks' home that was right near the WBNA at the time, and would always hang out outside of our bus stop in nothing but his boxers and a shearling vest, and his little belly was always hanging out.
And he'd be playing the guitar. Sometimes he was naked. Sometimes he wasn't even wearing anything.
What?
Yes. No, I remember. I'm not making it up. I remember this one time he was playing a guitar and he moved the guitar, and I was like, and the bus was driving by and all these kids. I just maybe it was one time, but it stuck with me.
So
I'll never forget that.
I guess that counts as diversity. Nudity. No,
was that a plus side? I mean, is that a perk to growing up here? I don't know. Maybe. I think
he loved to.
Nothing really surprises me anymore, I guess. So thanks.
When we were little, we went to the Hudson Street Market a lot, which is still there, but it's
best.
The delicatessen now.
Their turkey sandwiches were the best.
Yeah, they had these huge grinders that were 2 feet long, and
we'd remember cutting them. You get one, and between the 6 kids, we'd be slicing, and you could feed.
And everything
so many people.
Yeah, and everything was on a tab there, so you could just walk in. We would just walk in after school and put snacks on the tab, and that was one of the only markets that we'd go to. The other one was there was one where we'd get mint balls and
near the bus stop?
Candy right by our bus stop, which is across from the WBNA.
Yeah. One of my favorite places is definitely the park. It's so it's evolved so much. I remember I was looking through an old photo album from when I was a baby, and the playground area was all graffitied and broken and crazy, and I'm in this crazy little bomber hat, and I'm on the swings looking like an idiot, and is gross, but beautiful, but the stuff was all falling apart. And I think I just actually noticed that they've redone the playground again. It's the 3rd or 4th time in my years being here.
Some members of the Patriots come and help out
this time, I think. That's so cool.
Yeah. One of my favorite places in the neighborhood is actually if you go all the way down away from the park, past Messer, past Ellery, there's this one spot overlooking the highway and overlooking that side of Providence that I don't know if it's from growing up on a street that's busy enough that cars are going by and they're going by fast or something, but the sound of the cars rushing by on the highway has always been really calming, and I think it's partly because it sounds like the ocean or something, so I like to stroll down that. I love walking down there, and it also, because it's the most western end of the west side, it's that when the sun's setting, it's really pretty. I have an interesting relationship to the artistic community here, because mine is somewhat multi-generational. Partly, my parents considered themselves part of a strong artistic community when they moved here, and they're still part of a creative community, but a sort of controversial creative community that a lot of younger artists today are very critical of, artists who are my age who I'm friends with. And so it's been interesting to have conversations both with my parents and with a lot of my friends Like Ruby was sort of touching on some issues of gentrification, which like are definitely very real here. But there are also issues that, I think the artistic community here is very vibrant, and that always attracts attention from people with money. Artistic communities are exactly what people want to see and are interested in becoming a part of. And so, yeah, a lot of my friends who I live with here in this apartment are all artists. And
does anything surprise me about the neighborhood?
I'm surprised by this, like the status of the neighborhood in the city as a whole. I am working at Lily Marlene's right now, and sometimes we get people from the east side who sort of wander in and are just sort of, I don't know, there's like a new sense of people being somewhat like infatuated with the side of town in a new way, because it definitely feels up and coming in a way that the east side doesn't. The east side's like very ingrained, and there's a strong establishment already there, and a lot of students coming in are just like hungry for that but they're all stuck on the other side of town, and so it's interesting to see people discovering spots on this side of town for the first time. And like,
so are you surprised by the status in like a positive way? Like you're impressed, or you're okay?
Yeah, I think it's definitely it's a good thing to have business coming in from other parts of the city, for sure. But I also, there's like remnant sense of like, yeah, but like you didn't know what it was like before, and now it's like bizarre to see people coming in from the other side of town.
There's like a selfishness to it where you're like you want everyone to know how wonderful this place is, but don't come in, it's mine. Like, don't wreck it,
Yeah, it's just, you just never, 10 years ago, you never would have seen people from the east side, like, coming to drink on this side of town. It was just, like no, except for maybe a couple joints on Atwell's. It was, like, completely unheard of, and so that's a huge change, and I think that's what I mean by the status of it.
The best thing about the Armory? Oh, my God. Everything.
Drama
it's
major.
The best. No, really, it's like, it's so hard to say, because what makes the Armory the best is it's the people, it's the way that it's structured in regards to like having the park in the center like that, and that how like I lived on the other side of the park, and a lot of people lived over here, my friends, and we kind of meet in the middle somewhere or cross over, and there are so many different I don't know, there's so much going on all the time. There's a busyness, and it's spread out, but there's also a hub, right? Like you talked about, our parents kind of created this little community, and it was that, to me, that was the best part about the Armory, was having that core group of people. We spent so much time at each other's houses and yards and going places in groups and going to school together and doing everything, that it was like a huge Armory family, and that was the coolest. I don't think that I could have gotten that anywhere else, to be honest.